So here we are again at Leerburg. Michael Ellis has come for a visit to produce some new dog training DVDs, and we're doing a little question and answer section on the most common questions that both he gets and we get. And this question from a customer is real common because, well, I'll just read it to you. If my dogs are already playing tug with me, should I do both the food work from the power of training dogs with food first and then go on to the tug, or can I do both to better master engagement process?
It's a good question. We use food and toys slightly differently for different things, but ultimately we want to have as many tools in our toolboxes to reinforce the dog as possible. So I would definitely like to use food in a stationary way, food in a dynamic way, and toys, tugging, ball chasing. The more different ways I have of reinforcing my dog, the better I'm going to be in terms of their engagement and in terms of their performances. And I'll have less of a problem with running into a dog that gets stale with one specific reward system because I'll have a variety of ways of rewarding them. That said, we generally use food first to kind of jumpstart the process and to show the dog what we want them to do. Because when we're working with food, the dog tends to be at a slightly lower arousal level than they are with toys. So it's easier to manipulate them into positions and control their bodies and things like that. I can also do a lot of repetitions in a short time frame. I can do 10 sits in a row really quickly if I'm using food. And so while I'm teaching, it tends to facilitate that teaching process. And then for dogs that are more toy motivated, as we go forward in that process, we tend to switch to a toy because the dog likes the toy better and we get better performances. We get better engagement, more duration from our behaviors, faster behaviors, more intense behaviors if the dog is working for a more high value reward. But it's not uncommon that in the everyday world that we have dogs that like food better than they like toys. And if that were the case, we would stay with food for life with that dog. The only reason we switch to toys at all is because for a significant portion of the dog population, it's a higher value reward. But it can be also difficult for us to teach with a toy because the dog is so aroused that getting precision and doing the same number of repetitions because the dog gets tired is more difficult with a toy. So I would want both tools in my toolbox, and then we would generally use food at the beginning and transfer to a toy for a more toy motivated dog. Or with some dogs, we stay with food for life. And we have a transition, too, between the food and the toys in that we'll use food statically, handing your dog a piece of food for something, and we use food very dynamically, chasing the food, teasing the dog with the food, making him miss the food to make more energy and drive for the food as well.
And really that goes along with what I answer people that send in emails, and I tell them that, really the foundation for your system is really the power of playing with a tug and the power of training with food. So if new dog trainers can master and study the work in those two DVDs, that leads over into the training of all the other exercises for everything else that they want to do. Not only just in obedience, but you're here to do the videos now on the bite work. We're moving into that area, and it even plays into the bite work. So it's a good question. It goes both ways.
Absolutely. And there's no doubt that there are a finite number of tools in the whole system. There are certain pieces that we have. We have certain reward systems. We have our markers. And then we have certain physical ways of manipulating dogs. But at the end of the day, there's a finite toolbox that we develop. And so once we've developed those tools, then we're going to wind up using the same tools over and over and over again to create new and more complicated behaviors. So there is the basis of the system, which isn't going to change much as you go from basic obedience into more advanced or competitive obedience or bite work or retriever trials or, you name it. Your dog training is dog training at the end of the day.
And that's true. Not only do the dogs have to have their foundation, but just as importantly, the handlers have to have their foundation so they know what tools to use. And
maybe
if they
more
don't get
importantly.
it, more importantly, if they don't get it, the dogs aren't going to get it.
No, absolutely.
And you're going to get that. You're going to get the foundation out of these first two DVDs that we have done with Michael, the power of playing tug with your dog and the power of training your dog with food.